Okay, we're just gonna get started now then. Hi, welcome everyone.
You guys see the screen?
Oh yeah, good. Okay. Thank you all for being here today. Excited to have you come and listen to what we did here at the Bird Center. Really excited about it all. My name is Ashley. I'm finishing up my master's at U of M in landscape architecture. Back in 2017, I graduated from Michigan Tech with a degree in ecology and environmental science. And this is Audeline. I'll let her introduce herself.
At the same school, I'm also in C's. I'm doing a dual degree with landscape architecture and ecosystem science and management. I was an intern here last summer and finished up my undergrad in Alabama doing biology and psychology in 2016.
And here is our project advisor, Mark. He's here on Zoom today. We're really grateful for him. He is an assistant professor of landscape architecture in our school. He's just provided us like great guidance along the way and couldn't have done this without his help. I think we're good. So today we're just going to go over like a brief overview of everything we've done and then get more into detail about the gardens we've installed here, the educational signage that we've created and also installed, and then our write-up documents like the master plan and maintenance plan. So just start off with a summary. Here's our goal statement. I'm just going to read it for you guys. Our goal was to support the mission of the Bird Center and design a multifunctional landscape that supports birds and pollinators while enhancing public outreach surrounding the importance of native gardens and bird populations. So this is the timeline that we sort of created. This project was just the two of us. We were maybe a little ambitious, but we wanted to accomplish a lot. So sticking to this timeline was really important. So back in January in 2021 is when we created this project. Audie had a connection with the Bird Center and we started this project from scratch, not like traditional master's projects where there's a list and you just pick the project you want. We dreamt this up to what it is today. So that's really exciting. So we spent all of February kind of setting up the project, working with the school, getting all the logistics done. And then we jumped into our research and literature review on birds and native plants and things like that. And then that summer is when we started designing and installing the gardens here at the Bird Center. And then this winter is when we're just kind of wrapping things up, doing our write-up, and just finalizing our project.
Okay, so we split the project into 4 main phases. So I'll just go through those kind of quickly. So phase 1, like Ashley kind of said already, was project setup. It took a lot of time for us to do like planning and research. We conducted a full literature review, which is also in here.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so this is our final write-up. This is what we submitted to University of Michigan. It's in their deep blue repository. You guys can like pass it around and look at it, but that the literature review is in there. We also spent a lot of time looking for funding because University of Michigan gives each student a little bit of money, but then the rest of it we had to figure out ourselves. And so most of that money went to the plant material, which is pretty expensive. But yeah, so we kind of understand what nonprofits go through. It's just like grants and scholarship applications. It's tough. But yeah, then we contacted a lot of people to see if they could give us like external advice and support. And then we also went on some site visits to get inspiration from like nature centers and nature preserves to see like what that public interface looks like and to get inspiration for like signage and things like that. And phase 2 was the summer where we did all the design and then looked into sourcing plant material and figuring out like the logistics of the planting days and like tools and getting volunteers together. And then we actually planted at the end of the summer. And that was the big planting day. So that involved a lot of species removal. We took out the big honeysuckle and burning bush that was at the corner of the house on that side. That was a lot of work, and prepped the beds, took out all the other species that were here, a lot of weeds. Bed prep involved sod removal. We underestimated that part, but we got it done. And then yeah, we planted and mulched. And then phase 3 was the backyard planting, which a lot of you haven't seen yet. But we had applied for the WCCD school and community habitat grant. which was actually, I think this is their first year doing it. So we were one of the first people to get it this year. So we were pretty excited about that, but it's basically a grant that aims to assist schools and community organizations with accessing plants and creating wildlife habitat. So it aligns pretty well with the Bird Center's mission and our project goals. So we were like, this would be perfect. And we got free plants through them. They also offer free shrubs and trees, which did not line up with our seasonal planting timeline. So we just got perennials, but we also got a consulting session with Susan, who's here and is awesome. And they also offer technical assistance if we need it. And we got the sign over there. It was also brought by Susan.
It's from Doug.
It's from Doug. Yeah, Doug was our main contact. This will go into the backyard. It's a little tall, but
It's not really. It was like, oops, too tall.
it's fine. But yeah, we're super excited to have that. And then now we're in phase 4, wrapping everything up. So we did a little bit of assessment. We did some species bird counts to kind of get some baseline data that can be used for the future. Looked into like design improvements, as you know, it's always different when you have a plant and then you plant it and it looks different. So there's always room for improvement. We were like, oh, we probably should have put more shrubs in front of that ugly wall over there. So yeah, there's always room for improvement. We put in some plant labels as well for some of the main species and kind of looked at plant health and success. And it looks like most things are starting to bloom. So that's exciting. We kind of poked through the dirt and there's some little buds coming up. So good things. And then, yeah, the final write-up that you guys are passing around was what we just finished this past week, and it's been submitted. And then our plan for the future, that also includes the master site plan, our maintenance plan for the yard, and more educational signage.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Next, we're gonna go into the actual design and gardens that we installed, get into a little more detail about the plants and things. No? No? There it is. So here's the plan that we came up with. You can see the species on the side of the screen and then the actual like plan of the front yard here. You can see there's percentages next to the plants, and we chose to do this matrix style planting. And with that, it sort of mimics the natural environment where you just combine certain species and it creates this self-sustaining community. So with that, there's a bunch of different factors that go into the plant choices. One of them being seasonality, when plants emerge in the spring and when they die back in the fall. So you want to group them in a way where you don't leave gaping holes in the landscape. So there's always just like something growing in the landscape. And then also the form of the plant. So having like a taller plant next to like a bushier plant and just having puzzle pieces that fit together. And then also the density that you plant the plants at. So with matrix style, you plant them a lot denser and closer together. That way, when they grow up, there isn't really room for weeds to grow in between, and you don't really need to mulch anymore. And it's just easier on maintenance and a better looking natural garden as well. So here are a few, we're just going to highlight a couple of the plants that we used. We chose species that would look beautiful year round. So gardens should be pretty in the winter too, as well as the summer. So we have the service berry tree, which is right out front. They can see from their window in the living room. That has some great berries for birds. Also the winterberry, those are around the corner. Those have bright red berries in the winter, or they should, but we had a battle with the groundhog this year. So we will see what happens with those. Also, bee balm and big leaf aster are just great pollinator plants. Here's a couple more. We have columbine, prairie blazing star, wild geranium, and golden alexander. Those are all just great pollinator plants. And also all the plants that we chose were specifically to provide like resting, protection, and feeding resources for birds. So here we have a few pictures of what it looked like before we came through. You can see there was a line of daylilies across the ramp in the front, and then the big burning bush and honeysuckle on the corner. Just looked a little boring. So we came through, we removed a lot of sod, like Audie said, that wasn't very fun. but we removed everything, transplanted some things where we could, and then laid out our matrix blocks so we knew where the plants would go. And here,
Favorite sod. People
the
always ask me, so.
the machines are great, but they're a little like unruly. It can be a little dangerous. But I don't know. I don't think any way is really a good way. It all kind of sucks.
That's why people keep
Yeah,
Helps to have like a bobcat.
yeah,
to
yeah.
Just like carry.
Do the heavy lifting for you.
Because we were just like wheelbarrowing it back and forth, and that was not.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But yeah, so these were pictures right after we had it mulched and it was freshly planted. We're just really excited to see how it comes together in the future, given a few years and things kind of grow up and mature into themselves.
Yeah, okay, so I already mentioned the WCCD School and Community Habitat Grant, so that's in the backyard. And this is just what the plan looks like. There's an existing forsythia shrub back there that was like very overgrown, so we cut about half of it back. And then we did the same matrix style planting, and we just used a couple new plants, but these were again through WCCD. So they had like a plant list that we chose plants from. And there's some overlap with the front yard and the backyard so that there's some continuity through the landscape.
Oh. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
too far. There we are.
Okay, there we go. So these are kind of just the different ones that I wanted to highlight that aren't in the front yard. Rose mallow is this ginormous flower, which is pretty cool. That person is just there for scale. I don't know who she is. But they're really cool big flowers. And then we have hairy beard tongue, cardinal flower, which is really awesome for hummingbirds, and then purple cone flower, which is just like awesome. It has flowers like all through the summer into the fall. And then these are some of the cooler color plants. So great blue lobelia, nodding wild onion, and big blue stem, which I know the backyard is a pretty open space, and that shrub is kind of the only thing in the middle. So we wanted to add some larger grasses to give birds a little bit more hiding spot. You know, they could use it for nest building and whatnot, but yeah. So these are before pictures. There's Jason with the chainsaw helping us out. But yeah, so you can see that that's what it looked like before. Then after, so you can't really see the plants because they're a lot smaller than the ones that we planted in the front. The front yard we use mostly gallon-sized pots. The backyard were like little ones, but within a couple years they'll grow up and be beautiful as well. Yeah, we planted over like 550 plants. So okay, so now we're going to talk about just kind of our plans for the future. So I was also taking the rain garden course, and Susan is allowing us to put these plant lists in the handbook that you and Shannon Giffrindle have made, and that's also in the binder that's like at the back in the appendix. So it's an awesome resource, but there is the site, that spot on the site on the north end floods a lot. Rainwater likes to sit there for long periods of time, so it would be a good spot for a rain garden. So I took the course kind of just like additionally on top of classes because I wanted to learn more about it. And as part of that, I came up with a design for it. Here's the design. So this is like the minimum size for what the rain garden should be to soak up all that water from the parking lot, from the pole barn roof, and possibly from the driveway next door. So that's all calculated with like area. But yeah, so the garden can be as big as you guys want to make it, but this is just like a recommendation that you guys can do in the future if you want. And some of the species are different as well. They're more equipped to handle that rain.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is just like a chart that shows the bloom times and the little plant portraits, so you can see like what color they are and like when they'd be blooming. Yeah.
Okay, so the next piece of our project was educational signage. Here are a few of the plant species labels that we designed and had manufactured. These are just little like 5x7 cards on a metal stake that are placed in front of some of the key plants in the front yard. So these are really nice when visitors come drop off a bird or just coming to see the bird center, they can walk through the garden and learn some native plants while they're here.
Oh yes, okay, so this is the big educational sign that we created for you guys. We didn't get to put this one in because with like supply chain issues and like material prices going up, we could not afford it, was not in our budget, but we went ahead and made the design for you guys. So if you do want to use this in the future, you can, and like stick it wherever you want. But it's a good way to introduce the garden and like another way for visitors to come and like look at stuff while they're waiting. But we basically talk about the Practicum's mission, how the garden supports that, and then why native plants are important, and just like some of the key species that we've already talked about and what birds and pollinators they support.
So yeah, next we're going to go into the master and maintenance plans.
Okay, so this is the master plan that kind of covers the entire site, and it includes our recommendations and the stuff that's already been planted. So again, number one would be the rain garden over there. And then in the backyard, I know that there's a tree that's kind of dying, but we definitely recommend to keep that tree there for as long as possible because it will provide a lot of resources to birds and mammals. But if you wanted to put more small, medium trees back there, I know you guys are building flight cages back there right now, so you don't have to plant them in that location. You can plant them wherever. And the backyard garden is also there. That was planted in October. And then we thought another area for a possible rain garden could be like over on that side of the house, where there's a downspout and you guys like do a lot of bird cage washing back there, which could cause some erosion. So that might be a good spot for another rain garden. And then 5 is just the front yard that we planted. And then we thought it'd be cool to have some picnic tables or something in front of the trees here. And we definitely want to keep this area as open space for events. I know you guys had the memorial for Carol, so that's a good spot for that. And then that other half of the lawn could be good for more perennials, just because I know that there's a lot of existing lawn on the site. We want to reduce that as much as possible. This is just a perspective to show what that might look like. So if you're standing on the driveway and looking that way, that's what it could look like.
So next, another document we had made was the maintenance plan. We have those in binders here if you want to look at it. It's also in the appendix of that black binder. But this was just a document to give to the bird center to keep on file, and it just tells them how to take care of everything that we planted. So it goes through just like the basics of when to water, when to weed, how to prune things and when to prune things, as well as like when to mulch and if you need to mulch. So we also have an appendix of plant photos in there. It has a picture of every plant that we planted here, along with just a few quick notes about just when you should cut it back or if it dies back on its own, and just like basic care for that specific plant. And then we also put in some common weeds and invasive species to look out for as well in there. So here we just have a few highlights from what's in there. With watering, it's best to water when hot and dry, especially for the next few years when the garden is still getting established. With weeding, it's best to do it at least twice a year. We walked around, there's already a few weeds popping up, so it's best to just kind of keep up on that. And then with pruning, you can prune trees and shrubs in late winter. And then the perennials, you can cut those back in late spring after the early pollinators come through and take what they need out of the seed heads. And then with mulch, you'll have to keep up with it for the first 5 years, but like I said, the plants will grow up and hopefully be touching each other, so there won't be room for much mulch after that.
Yeah, so I know we mentioned habitat quality earlier, and I'm sure you guys already know this, but just to kind of cover it, you know, to assess like how much food, cover, and water there is on the site. And you guys already have the NWF, well, the habitat certification thing, so that's awesome. But we just wanted to make sure that those aspects were present in what we planted. And this is just a very abstract chart. The y-axis means nothing. It's just representational, but it's just to show that habitat quality should increase over the years, and then maintenance will go down. The first couple of years are just super, super important to keep up on that maintenance until the garden's established. And then after that, it should be a lot less work. But yeah, these are the species counts that I also mentioned earlier. These are just, the species that we collected in 2 different sessions. So we did late summer and like mid-fall. And so this is, again, just like baseline data that future projects could use or you guys could use to see as the garden goes up and gets established if those species counts change.
So one of the last things we did was put together a garden satisfaction survey. So it was really important to us to get feedback on every phase of the design, including after it is finished and installed. So we created this very short Google, we created this really short Google form survey where it has a few photos of the before pictures of the garden and then also after we planted it. And then it gives them some prompts about how do these photos make you feel, or what do you think about the aesthetics about these? So yeah, that's something we are giving these laminated sheets to the bird center. We also have one in a little like holder over there that they can keep on the front desk. So then when people come drop off a bird, they can just get one of these clipped to their clipboard. They can scan the code and fill out the survey while they're here, make it nice and easy. And this data, it can be used to inform any future projects that are here. I know the Bird Center didn't get a master's project group for this coming year, but it is possible that they will get one in the future and they can expand on our project or anything like that. So they can use this data to continue on.
Yeah, so that's it. Thank you guys. We couldn't have done it without you all, so.
Everyone who helped us, thank you.
Yeah. Those are just some of the bird pictures from last summer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you have questions or anything, we can also do a little tour after we're all done. Yeah.
Great job.
Thank you.
Yeah, any questions or anything?
I guess I have